Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to go over the 3 key things you need to have a successful bulking phase. So there are many things that you need in the bulk to make it successful, but these 3 are the most important in my opinion to have the most successful phase. And no, it doesn't include steroids, even though every other fucking influencer's on them, but just doesn't speak about it. For the record, I'm definitely not on them. So number 1, the first thing that you are going to need in a bulking phase, this is crucial, you have to have this, it's a caloric surplus. So what does this mean? This means you are eating more calories than your body needs to maintain its weight. First of all, you need to work out your maintenance calories. You can do this by going online, going on a TDEE calculator, work out how many calories your body needs to maintain its weight. For the purpose of this video, let's say your maintenance calories is 2,500. So going into a bulking phase, you're going to need to eat more than 2,500 calories. Say you eat 2,800, you are in a caloric surplus. So you may ask, how many calories do I eat above my maintenance? Well, this is a question that every single person has a different blooming answer to. Now, you don't want to eat too much over, because if you eat too much over, you're going to get pretty fat pretty quick. However, you don't want to eat too under or too little, because sometimes if you're not eating enough, you're not going to put any weight on at all. So it needs to be a balanced amount so that your body weight is going up very, very slowly, but not too quick that you're gaining too much body fat. In my opinion, a good baseline is to add 300 calories onto your maintenance. So in this case, if your maintenance is 2,500, add 300, that would be 2,800 calories. What you would do is track at 2,800 calories for a week, see what your body does. If your weight slowly goes up, you're in the right place. If your weight doesn't move at all, you might have to increase your calories a little bit more. So once you're in that caloric surplus, maintain it, always keep an eye on it, try and track your food or monitor your food as much as possible, and make sure your weight slowly creeps up as the weeks and months go on. And number 2, arguably the most important part of a bulking phase. We want to gain muscle. So what do you need to do to gain muscle? You need to be in the blooming gym. Now, we don't just want to be in the gym, you want to be prioritizing quite a few things. The first one is progressive overload. And what is progressive overload? Progressive overload is basically progressing your lifts every week or every other week. So say you bench press at the moment, you can get 8 reps on 100 kilos. Ideally, in a couple of weeks, you'll be getting 9, 10, maybe even 11 reps. In a couple of months, we probably want to be bench pressing 110 kilos, maybe even 115 if you're an animal. That is the most simple explanation for progressive overload. Progress your lifts every week, every other week. Some lifts will take a few weeks. As long as they're progressing over the long-term gaining phase, then you will be gaining muscle. It's not just progressive overload we want to be focusing on in our training though. Execution is also key. You need to be making sure you're executing your lifts properly. So what does execution mean? Correct form and correct tempo. First of all, form. Form is simply how you're doing the movement. So for a bicep curl, you're slowing the way down, you're driving up, you're not sweating all over the place. Tempo is the speed of the movement. So for most movements, we want to be going about 3 seconds on the way down, which is called the eccentric, and 1 or 2 seconds on the way up, so a little bit more explosive. If your tempo and execution are correct, chances are you're going to be getting the most bang for your buck out of the movement that you're doing. Now, training splits. There's not one training split which is the best in the world. It's whatever fits you, your goals, what muscle groups you want to bring up, all those sort of things. One thing I will say is if you're trying to gain muscle, ideally try and train every muscle group at least twice a week. That's going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of gaining muscle. So there you go. Focus on progressive overload in your training, getting blooming strong as fuck, and also focus on the execution of the movement, making sure you're doing it blooming properly and not just getting strong or throwing the bar all over the place and snapping your back in half. Number 3, an extremely important part of bulking. If you don't focus on this part, you're going to be screwed and you're not going to gain as much muscle as you want to. This is recovery. And no, it's not just ice baths, it's not fucking meditating, it's not doing stupid shit that's trending. This is simple stuff. The first one is sleep. Ideally, you should be getting 8 hours sleep a night. Obviously, that's in an ideal world. Let's be honest, not everyone gets 8 hours sleep. But let's just say this, get as much sleep as you possibly can around your routine. Then you're going to be putting yourself in the best position possible for your body to recover and to gain muscle. Now, rest isn't just sleep. We want to be focusing on rest days too. You don't need to be in the gym 7 fucking times per week. In my opinion, 2 rest days is good enough. So you could train 5 days a week, rest 2, and you're going to be getting some adequate recovery. But these rest days don't have to be together. For example, you may put them in the middle of your sessions. This is all dependent on when you're training certain muscle groups. So ideally, you're not training chest on a Monday and chest on a blooming Tuesday. Split them up, put a rest day in between, or train another muscle group in between those sessions. So we got sleep, we got rest days. Also, nutrition comes into it a little bit, protein intake. Now this is definitely under the recovery section. You are not going to recover properly if your protein intake isn't sufficient. You need to be having a good amount of protein in your diet, whether you're bulking, cutting, or just maintaining. If you're going to the gym in general, your protein intake needs to be high. Now, what should your protein intake be? Again, everyone's got a slightly different answer. For just a nice round number, you can go for 1 gram per pound of body weight. Now, when you're bulking, this should probably be enough. However, you can go a little bit over it if you want to. In my opinion, you'd rather have more than not enough. So make sure you're sleeping 7-8 hours a night or as much as you can get in your routine. Make sure you're having a minimum 2 rest days a week if you can, and if you're not having 2 rest days a week, make sure your other recovery protocols are on point. Make sure your protein intake is high. If you've got all 3 of these in place, you're going to be recovering pretty blimmin' well and hopefully gaining a good amount of muscle. So there we go, the 3 tips you need to bulk. Get all those in check and you're going to be fucking huge in no time. To summarise, be in a caloric surplus. Eat more food than your body needs to maintain its weight. Training. Train hard, be consistent, focus on progressive overload, getting stronger, and you're going to gain some bloody good muscle. And recovery. Make sure you're having blooming rest days. Make sure your protein intake is high, and make sure you're getting some good sleep. So there you go. Have a bloody good old bulking phase this winter. Get massive, eat massive, and make sure you subscribe to me so that you get even more massive.